Take a moment with me. Before we go any further, I want you to find a quiet space in your heart. Maybe you're watching this at the end of a long day, when life feels too fast, too heavy, too chaotic. Or maybe you clicked on this video out of simple curiosity. However you arrived here, I don't believe it was by accident. Nothing is ever accidental when it comes to the things of God. Sometimes He uses moments like this to whisper something important, something meant just for you. Not long ago, a dear friend of mine, a pastor who has served for over 40 years here in the United States, told me, "The world is changing so quickly that I feel like I'm living inside an unfolding prophecy." And I believe many of us feel the same way. Have you ever sensed that life is spinning faster, as if something significant is drawing near? Yet no one can quite name it. When I read the words of Jesus, especially the ones He spoke about the end times, I often feel as though He is standing right in front of me, gentle yet firm, like a father who wants to comfort his children, but also awaken them. Jesus never spoke these things to frighten us. He spoke because He knows how easily our hearts drift, how quickly worries, distractions, and daily struggles drown out the voice of the soul. And what moves me most is this: Jesus never left us guessing. He didn't want us to walk through life in darkness, unsure of what's coming. Instead, He gave us a clear sequence, a spiritual roadmap. And if we pause long enough to look at it, we begin to see that many of those signs are unfolding right before our eyes. A respected Bible scholar in Texas once told me, "God never acts without sending a warning." The real question is whether we're willing to listen. I'll never forget the way he described it. He said our spiritual lives are like a clock on the wall. The hands move quietly, slowly, almost unnoticed. But when the moment arrives, the bell will ring, even if we forgot the clock was there. And the rapture, he said, is that bell. Jesus told us, "Watch, for you do not know the hour your Lord is coming." That wasn't a threat. It was a tender reminder, like a father placing his hand on your shoulder saying, "Don't fall asleep in the noise of this world." Many older believers have told me that the longer they live, the more fragile life feels. A phone call, a diagnosis, a sudden crisis. Everything can change in an instant. Jesus knew the human heart would grow weary, anxious, overwhelmed. And that's why he spoke of the rapture not as a disaster to fear, but as a promise to hold on to. I want you to imagine something. You step outside one quiet morning, breathe in the fresh air, and for reasons you can't explain, your heart feels a gentle pull, like something sacred is approaching. That feeling, that holy awareness, is exactly how Jesus described the days leading up to his return. Look around our world today. The deception, the lawlessness, the fading of love, the global spread of the gospel, the exhaustion in people's faces. None of this surprised Jesus. Every sign he spoke of has echoed into our generation. These warnings are not the end of the story. They are invitations. Invitations to wake up, to lift our eyes, to remember that this world is not our final home. And if you're listening to this right now, I want you to hear something deeply. Jesus knows your struggles. your sleepless nights, the quiet battles no one else sees. He hasn't forgotten you. He is calling you, not to fear, but to readiness. When we talk about the signs Jesus gave, I want you to remember this. He wasn't only describing events happening in the world. He was also speaking about the quiet storms inside the human heart. Many older believers I meet here in America, people who have lived through wars, recessions, pandemics, and personal heartbreak, often tell me that their greatest concern isn't the chaos outside, but the confusion inside society. They worry that people no longer know what is right or wrong. And Jesus warned us about this long ago. Before any war, famine, or earthquake, deception would come first. Not political deception, spiritual deception. The kind that makes darkness look harmless and truth look old-fashioned. Have you noticed it too? A world where moral lines are blurred, where values that once held families together are now treated as outdated. A grandmother in our church said to me after service, "Pastor, I look at the younger generation and I worry. How will they survive in this world?" I held her hand and said, Jesus knew this day would come, and that's why he told us to stay awake. When Jesus spoke of wars, famine, and disasters, he wasn't giving a list to scare us. He was reminding us that nothing happening today is outside the Father's plan. Every crisis becomes a mirror, showing us how fragile we truly are, and how deeply we need a place of spiritual refuge. I once asked an elderly doctor, a man who spent decades watching human pain up close, what strengthened his faith the most. He said, "Because medicine can heal the body, but only God can heal the soul." His words stayed with me. And it's true, the signs of the end times aren't meant to terrify our bodies. They are meant to awaken our spirits. That's why Jesus reminded us of Noah and Lot. Their stories may seem ancient, but they are mirrors of our generation. In Noah's time, life looked normal. People worked, married, celebrated, and laughed. Yet spiritually, the world was drowning. Doesn't that sound like us today? Busy, distracted, confident that tomorrow will look exactly like today. I once asked a close friend, "Do you think people today are too busy to hear God's voice?" He replied, "Not just busy with things that lead nowhere." And he was right. The world is full of noise that slowly lulls the soul to sleep. That's why Jesus spoke of the midnight cry, the moment when the world is at its sleepiest, its darkest, its most distracted. Midnight is when people stop paying attention. Midnight is when the heart grows numb. Midnight is when many say, "I'll deal with it tomorrow." But nothing spiritual is meant for tomorrow. When God calls, it is always a now invitation, a gentle nudge telling us, "Awake, for something holy is near." I want you to imagine something. A quiet night, the world still, and suddenly you sense a whisper inside your heart. It's time to come home. Many people have told me they've experienced moments like that. No trumpet, no thunder, just a gentle pull toward God. That is the beginning of awakening. And Jesus made it clear, before the rapture, there will be separation. Not physical at first, but spiritual. a separation between those who truly walk with God and those who only appear to. He said, "Two will be together. One will be taken, the other left." Not to frighten us, but to remind us that faith cannot be borrowed. Each heart must choose for itself. A theologian I admire in Chicago once told me, "The rapture doesn't create faith, it reveals it." And how true that is. When the midnight cry comes, those who have oil in their lamps will rise immediately. Those without oil will only have fear and regret. Yet even here, Jesus' intention is love. He warns us not to condemn us, but to make sure we're not left behind. Every sign he mentioned is not the closing of a story. It is the beginning of preparation. A reminder that the greatest chapter of humanity is about to unfold. A chapter not of fear, but of fulfillment. Not of loss, but of homecoming. And every heart that chooses him now will be ready then. My friend, if you're still watching this, I believe something real is stirring inside you. Maybe it's a quiet worry, maybe a gentle hope, something you haven't felt in a long time. And that feeling matters, because the most beautiful part of all the prophecies Jesus gave is not the events themselves, but his heart behind them. A heart that is patient, a heart that waits, a heart that calls. I once asked an elderly gentleman at church, "What makes you believe that God is still near?" He smiled softly and said, "Because every morning I wake up, I still feel loved." That simple truth stayed with me. Jesus speaks of the rapture because he loves us enough to want us prepared, not afraid. Have you ever felt this? The sense that life is too short to live in fear, but long enough to prepare for what truly matters. Many older believers tell me that as they look back over their lives, the victories and failures, the moments of joy and the seasons of loss, they realize that only the things of the Spirit remain. Everything else fades. And if you feel that awakening in your heart right now, then you are exactly where Jesus wants you to be. The rapture is not the end of our story. It is the beginning of the most beautiful chapter. A chapter with no pain, no sickness, no sorrow. A chapter where time no longer limits us, and age no longer defines us. I want you to picture this. A moment when every burden drops from your shoulders. A moment when your eyes meet the eyes of Jesus. A moment when you finally understand that every trial, every prayer, every tear, every step of faith, especially the difficult ones, were leading you toward that embrace. In that instant, you'll know that he never left you, not once. No day in your life was meaningless. No prayer was forgotten. No small effort of faith went unnoticed. But remember this: that moment is reserved for those who are ready. Not perfect, just ready. Ready in heart, ready in faith. Ready because they kept oil in their lamp, even when the world grew dark. Before we end this video, I want to say something I believe Jesus wants you to hear today. You're not late. The door of grace is still open. I'm still waiting for you. No matter how old you are, no matter what you've been through, no matter how long you've been away, Jesus is still calling, not with a shout, but with a whisper. Come back. Wake up. Let me guide you home. When this video ends, I don't want you to carry fear. I want you to carry hope. Hope that every sign Jesus mentioned was not meant to frighten you, but to remind you that his return is near. And when that day comes, may you and everyone you love be among those who rise in glory. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for listening with an open heart. I pray that today, something deep inside you was touched, not by my words, but by the one who wrote these prophecies long before we were born. May the peace of Jesus, the kind this world cannot give and cannot take away, rest on your mind and your home. And until our next video, my friend, may you continue walking in the light, watching with expectation, and keeping your lamp filled with oil. The best part of your story is not behind you, it's ahead, waiting in the presence of the one who loves you more than you can imagine.